So welcome back to the Average Dad channel. Today I'm going to build a vintage style Fender guitar in Fiesta red. This is for my brother Steve. It's a gift, and I already did this on a previous video, but it was a little bit long and drawn out. So this one I'm just going to make it a little bit more concise. So let's get started. So let's go over what makes this a vintage style Stratocaster again. This is from Guitar Fetish, and they modeled this vintage body after a 1963 Stratocaster. So it's made out of alder wood, which was probably what they were using. This one's routed a little bit different. It has that humbucker, single humbucker route, which probably wasn't original. It's a 1 3/4 inch body thickness, which is original to Fender, and the neck pocket is the dimensions shown there. So it's a standard neck pocket dimensions. It has a vintage thin hard finish to it, and the specified tremolo route is vintage, and I'll share with you why that is in a minute. So here's a list of parts, and the part number from Guitar Fetish is on the right. The alder body, they have a really nice Fender styled necks for these guitars. They're made out of what they call premium hard rock maple, Canadian maple necks. They're just really nice necks. And the USA spaced solid brass tremolo block is what I'm going to go for on this one. Heavy neck plate with screws, output jack, aged pick guard. Actually on this one it's going to be a pearlized pick guard, not an aged pick guard, so that's a little bit different. There is a nut that comes with the neck that I'm just probably going to leave there. And the little killer white humbucker rail pickups, which are really nice. You'll see those. And I'm going to shield the guitar cavity. I'll show you how that's done. And what's nice about these little killer humbuckers are they're actually humbuckers that look like single coils. So they have the shape of a single coil, but they're actually 3 separate humbuckers, and they can be played as single coil or humbucker, all 3 of them. So it's really nice. And then the Wilkinson Fender style nickel tuners I'm going to use, which kind of gives it that vintage feel. So here's a photograph of what the body will look like in Fiesta red, and there's the humbucker, single coil humbucker route, but I'm just going to put 3 single coil humbuckers. They look like single coil, but they are actually humbuckers, but they don't need the humbucker route. So all the electronics fit inside this body really nicely. The neck pocket is standard size, and it's just going to be a really nice looking guitar with the pearlized pickguard. And this is what the 21 fret hard rock Canadian maple neck looks like. There is an amber neck and a blonde colored neck. I'm trying to figure out which neck I think will look better with this vintage red guitar. I like the blonde necks, but with the red, the amber might actually be a nice complement. And they're already reamed for these, the holes for the tuners are already reamed out for the right size 9mm holes for the Wilkinson style tuners, and they have medium jumbo frets. Just a really beautiful neck. So this is the USA spaced tremolo, and what makes a vintage guitar a little bit different is the string spacing. So the string spacing from the high E string to the low E string is 2 7/32, so that inches. So that's about 11.3 millimeters per string. So it gives you a little bit wider string spacing on the guitar. Now some people, I've heard people go back and forth on this, and some people really don't like the wider string spacing, and some people like the more narrow string spacing. But I've played them both now, and really there's hardly any difference. I think the little bit wider string spacing actually feels a little bit better, but there's no problem with the strings being too close to the edge of the fretboard or anything like that, what I've heard or from reading on the internet. It's just a very minute detail, but it does make the guitar a little bit more comfortable, especially if you have a little bit larger hands, to have that little bit wider string spacing at the base of the neck. So here's the real difference in string spacing if you look at this diagram. So the American vintage is 2 7/32 inches wide, so that's about 11.3 millimeters between each string. American vintage narrow. A lot of guitars are made that way now. It's about, I think it's 10 point, I'm going to say 10.5 or 10.6 millimeters between string. So that's, 2 and 1/16 total string spacing. So the screw spacings are the same though. So that's what makes it kind of American vintage versus the Mexican standard, where the screw spacing is actually narrower and the string spacing is narrower. So a tremolo and a bridge made for a Mexican standard is not going to fit the American vintage. Now you could put the American vintage narrow on there with the narrow string spacing, but you're going to have that 2 and 7/32 screw spacing. So, but we're going with the top one, American vintage, 2 and 7/32 string spacing and screw spacing. So here they are from Guitar Fetish, the little killer humbuckers. These are just wonderful. They're single coil pickups, but they're also humbucker pickups. So each one of them is a humbucker. There's 2 coils in there on each of them, but they can be split. So you could play it just like a single coil Strat, but you can also have humbucker in all 3 positions. So to me, it's just the best of both worlds. You can play it like a traditional Strat, or you can have that more full-bodied rock sound out of the humbuckers. And all 3 of them can be humbuckers, which is just, it's really, I really like them. And finally, these are the Wilkinson style nickel tuners. It's a it's a vintage style tuner. It has the where you stick the fret wire into the top and you wind it around the post. And I've tried the locking tuners and I've tried these vintage style tuners, and I really don't see the difference. I don't really think the locking tuners really buy you a heck of a lot, in my opinion. In fact, I'd rather have some string wound around a post. That way, if I want to reuse a string or back a string off or take it off and then reuse it, I can reuse it. When you have those locking tuners and you cut them off, you basically can't reuse a string. You don't have much to work with there. So I do prefer these. So thank you for watching. Part 2 will be installing the tuners and joining the neck and the body. So stay tuned for part 2. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it.